Hello and good evening. Welcome back to the stream. I do hope everyone is doing well today. Doing quite well myself. It's finally gotten cool enough that I can close the window again, even though I'm sitting here sweating over it. But better that than having to deal with all the noise outside. Today I'm back for a little bit more world building. And similar to the streams before looking at Incarnate, I thought I would take the opportunity to try out another tool I've seen mentioned a few times on world building subreddits and such like. So today I'm going to be having a look at this, Obsidian Notes, which is not explicitly a world building tool, though there are quite a number of community made plugins and such. Rather, it is just a sort of node and organization tool. Now I've seen a lot of things to this tool, a lot of different things you can do with it, but the one that I'm most interested in has to do with this side of a page. If we make a new note over here, go into this one, and then do this, we can put in a link between the notes. And you see them here represented as nodes and connected. And like this, you can essentially use Obsidian as a kind of wiki builder that you can then navigate over here using this view. And I thought that was rather fascinating. It seems like quite a useful tool to have. I'm going to try it out. That being said, what am I going to world build today? Well, I think I'm going to roughly continue with the project I was working on last time, the kind of world map that I was creating. But I'm going to do it in the way that I usually do world building, which is to say, I make up a bunch of stuff that maybe doesn't necessarily fit together, or I even move on from a project every now and then to a new one, build a bit at a time, and then strip them all down for parts and bring them into the middle to create the actual finished project. So what I'm going to world build today is for a world that looks very similar to the one I was working on previously, but isn't quite the same, and the end result will be something built from pieces of it. Good evening, Izzy Saras. Obsidian, yes, I've not used it before, but if you're familiar with it, do let me know if there's anything particularly interesting. I'm mostly interested in the graph view node map and the fact that you can link pages together. That seems very useful. I've looked at a few wiki pages before for world building and considered using them to organize things, but I didn't want to host the stuff on the web, and then similar ones were a little finicky to use. I never quite got into the use of, I can't remember which one it was, either World Anvil or Campfire Blaze, you know, one of the popular ones that you see advertised by YouTubers every now and then. But this one was a quick little download, so I thought I would give it a shot. So, to start this off with, I've been looking, I do like to look at TV tropes from time to time. I find tropes are interesting, I find they're useful, and TV tropes is just a fun way to spend an hour reading stuff. And one of the pages that I've come back to that I remember looking at a while ago as well was the cast calculus page, where it looked at different party sizes and the kind of approaches to them. Now, I'm not looking to box my characters in to a particular party makeup and particular rules and roles for what each character is supposed to do, but I do find it an interesting starting off point. I personally think that smaller groups are not as interesting. I think if I'm reading something, I would like there to be at least, you know, 4 or so characters, and more specifically when I'm writing something. I do read works that have just a main character who goes off on their own, but they're usually for light reading, the kind of stuff. You know, I read a lot of lit RPG, which is very action heavy with daily chapters and stuff like that, rather than sitting down with a large book and really getting into it. For that kind of thing and for my own writing, I think more characters is a bit better. But I am torn between 4 characters and 5 characters. I think 3 is just not quite enough. If you've only got 3 people, then it's too easy for one person to have an opinion, the one person sides with them, and then what the last person thinks just kind of doesn't matter. But then with 5 people, it starts to get a little complicated. You have to really think about the dynamics of the group and the relationships and all that kind of stuff. I generally lean towards 4 characters, and I'm leaning towards 4 characters again this time. So to start that off with, and I guess for a little extra context, this world that I'm building, I want to build a very kind of standard fantasy quest. Like maybe not as far as the hero's journey. Our main character is a farmer who finds out he's the chosen one, but one of the characters in the party is going to be, you know, the reason the party is being assembled in the first place. One of them is going to be this is your mission, and here's the people to help you out along the way. And it is going to be a proper mission. They're going to go to a king or something, or an oracle, and get a quest to go defeat some evil. So to start off with, let's just name this node the party. Our main characters, I can spell, characters on a quest to vanquish evil. The party consists of the chosen one. And then what? This is where the question of cast calculus comes in. The party consists of the chosen one. They've got to be there. We need the person that's actually here for this. Now, how do I fill the other roles? I'm thinking I fill them with character concepts that interest me and kind of skill sets or characters that I want to see in the story. This world will have magic, though the details of how that magic will work are as of yet undecided. One of the characters that I've kind of had stuck in my head for a while is the Gravekeeper. I want that as one word, but that's not actually correct, is it, grammatically? I'm gonna write it as one word. This is more their title, less of a description. There was an anime I watched quite a long time ago, but I'm not even sure I ever finished, called Sunday Without God, which was about this world where someone had made a wish or a prayer, and that prayer had been answered, and it was that no one would die anymore. And predictably this had terrible consequences for everyone involved. And our main character in that anime was this young woman who is a gravekeeper or grave tender, and what she can do is that people she buries actually manage to die and pass on. So the only way you can die in this world is for a proper gravekeeper to bury you, and only some people are able to do it. Now that's not quite the concept I have for this character, but the kind of inspiration of someone who goes around tending to the dead. You know, instead of keeping a particular graveyard, they see to the dead and the undead across the world is very interesting to me. Reminds me as well of the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix, you know, the Sabriel, Clariel books, stuff like that. An absolutely excellent series where our main character is the person who goes around putting down the undead. Because in this world, in order to resist dying, you have to keep consuming life force, so undead are kind of evil by default and become twisted over time, and the Aborson is the only one who is allowed to practice necromancy. Everyone else who's a necromancer, they're resurrecting people, they're doing evil stuff. The Aborson uses necromancy specifically to combat the undead. I don't have such a combative idea in mind for this character. I'm thinking of something gentler for them, but that's kind of the two influences I'm drawing on for this person. You want to create those characters as nodes? Yes, that's kind of the one thing I do know about this program. That's the full reason why I'm using it, is the fact that you've got this cool graph and that you can use it as a kind of wiki to link stuff together. I think that's super, super neat. I know that there's a bunch more options that you can use for this program. I've seen other people's vaults and all the stuff they've got in them, and it's mad. But the feature that made me try this out in the first place is exactly as you say. You can add 2 square brackets and then link things together. But we'll get to that in a moment once I start making the pages for each of these characters. For now, I need to actually put a few characters down. So yeah, we have the Chosen One. We have the Gravekeeper. I'll turn all of these into links to their pages once I've made them. I guess we can put them in now. Chosen One. The Gravekeeper. I guess it is fine like that. We'll split the word up. Fine. Grammar wins. Chosen One. And Spotify. Gravekeeper. And I have this note back at the top. We reorder these? No. Change sort order. Create time alter new. There we go. You can just type the wizard into the party sheet. Oh, and it creates a node automatically. Excellent. Thank you for letting me know. In that case, our next character, the Chosen One, the Gravekeeper. Next up, I've been watching Jujutsu Kaisen recently, and Sukuna is awesome beyond words. And that scene where he's just standing there and heat starts emanating from him and melting everything around was one of the best things I've seen animated, I think, ever. So one of our characters is going to be that. And I'm thinking I want them to be from some kind of knightly order, so the Flame Knight or something along those lines. Now, will that automatically make a page? Oh, hang on, what did you say? You can just type, what was it? Party sheet and then read automatically. How do I make you make a thing? I can click on it, there we go. Cool, we have another node. So there's 3 characters. Technically, enough for a party, you know? 2 people I think that's just a pair, that's not really a party, but 3 people we have a party. I think that's too small though. There has to be a minimum of 1 more person, and then beyond that there'll be some hangers on or followers or people who are only there temporarily for a certain leg of the journey. They're not part of the kind of core team. And this last one's the one I'm struggling with because I don't have an easy inspiration for them. So maybe I leave them be for now. Now, so the party consists of these people. The quest was given to them by... Now, I said a king before, or an oracle. Do I want to... It's a question of how far I want to lean into the cliches, you know? A little bit is good, too much can be bad, but too much can be fine as well. I mean, as I said, I read lit RPG and I read cultivation novels, and those genres thrive on their conventions. Cultivation novels especially have pretty strong tropes that are present kind of across almost all cultivation novels. And you've got to really know exactly what you want to do if you want to stray from those tropes. They exist for a reason, and the genre is popular based almost entirely off of them. So for this, a prophecy is maybe a little much. I don't think I want to do a prophecy. We can do something adjacent to a prophecy, which is actually a video by Overly Sarcastic Productions fairly recently, which is the cosmic alignment, where there's some kind of event happening. It only happens every now and then, like the stars aligning, a cosmic alignment, and the great evil can only be defeated by making use of it. So the party is on a time limit, and I think that's a good one. So the quest was given by someone who knows about the cosmic alignment. I think I am going to go for an actual cosmic one. It will be some kind of the stars line up and it triggers whatever thing. So the quest was issued by someone watching the stars. Could be a court mage who knows about it. Could be something else. I do like the idea of kind of knightly orders, as I said here, and like an order of gravekeepers who tend to whatever place, and stuff like that. All these organizations dotted around the place. So, Tarot Keeper, yeah, Tarot, something like that. But I'm thinking this won't be an advisor to a king and a king issued a quest. This will be like the head of the order. So this quest was given by, curly brackets. This quest was given by the head of look at, I mean, just Keeper? Now, but Keeper conflicts with me already having Gravekeeper on here, so it can't be the Keeper. This quest was given by someone, by the something of... I keep hitting shift, but I don't need to. This quest was given by the something of the order. Of the order of the... the order of the something sky. The order of the night sky is very straightforward, maybe a little bland. but their only purpose really is to be there at the start of the story and issue the quest. So maybe something forgettable doesn't actually hurt. The Order of the Night Sky. Maybe order, some other word. The sect, the cult, the watchers, the watchers. Super boring. I'm really doing these guys dirty here, but yeah, the Watchers of the Night Sky. They have seen in the stars that an alignment is imminent. When it occurs, the chosen one's sword. No, we're not going to call it the chosen one's sword. It gets the sword of legend gets its own name. I think that I have to insist on. Even if we're going to be lazy with who's issuing the quest, the sword of legend has to have its own name. When it occurs, the sword will be at full power and capable. What am I writing? Capable of vanquishing the and then insert name for some undead monstrosity. And that's the basic premise. We've got a party of heroes, they get a quest, they travel to a place, use a funky sword, beat some evil undead guy. Super tropey and cliche, but sometimes that's exactly what you want. Now, do I spend the time trying to come up with the names, or do I just leave it blank for the time being and focus? Now, I do believe that nodes change size at some point, but I can't remember whether it's based on how many connections, on how many things they reference, or how many things reference them. And I think it's how many things reference the node that causes it to change size. So I'll want to definitely reference back from all of these back to the party. So leader of the party. Member of the party. And member of the party. Also, since this is technically supposed to be a let's see what Obsidian is like kind of stream, I did see a few options earlier when I was checking the program out for like markup and pasting HTML into it and all kinds of funky stuff. So I'm liking it so far. It reminds me of Sublime Text, a program that I used to use for coding HTML. You can just call it the captain and change the title of a node later and it will change the reference automatically too. Okay. Yeah. IV. I don't know. Sure, captain. The captain of the Watchers of the Night Sky. I'll use captain here specifically because there's no way I'm calling the head of this order of astronomers captain. When it occurs, the sword of legend will be at full power and capable of vanquishing the evil undead. Excellent. Now then, But how does it decide when to open a new thing and when to move between them? Like if I click this, okay, opens another node. And if I change this here to just leader, update links. Do you want to update internal links that link to this file? This will affect one file. Yes, in fact, I want you to do that all the time. Lovely, lovely, lovely. The party consists of a chosen one, the gravekeeper, the flame knight. So the chosen one, leader of a party. Are they part of any sort of organization? If you want the graph to look cleaner too, you can mess with the forces. Oh, how much it yanks around the screen when a new node is in there, I assume. Oh, I've just noticed that chat is maybe a little small on screen there. And also maybe in a way because it's on the graph. Where do I put you? Make the chat box bigger. Let's stick it down here next. There we go. Center force, repel force, link distance. Good stuff. Now we've also got groups, which I think you can recolor certain stuff. So I make a new group. F match match file name, search for tags, search keywords. Attachments, existing files only. Alright, you can put stuff into folders, so characters. And I put in there the chosen one. How does that affect my graph? And can I make a group based off of the things? I'm a little concerned about path of a file, that it might show my computer file path. So hang on just a second. If I hide that real quick. Okay, no, it did not. And hide. Yeah, path. When I clicked on path, it showed me the folder in here. So now our characters are colored in red. Let's make them, I don't know, something brighter. Green, a nice shade of green. Okay, nice. Let's make a couple of folders. Characters, locations is something we're gonna want. Organizations. Let's put the party in organizations. This goes in here. New group. Locations. And new group. Organizations. Let's make locations, I guess some kind of earthy brown, and organization can be kind of yellow. Okay, and for the sake of having the stuff colored in, let's click on each of these nodes so that I can put these into their correct things. You're in characters, you're in organizations, and in a sort of legend, do I need a stuff tag? Items? Magic items or objects? Maybe not. Oops, I clicked that on the wrong one. You stay like that, and we go back to the party. Okay. So the chosen one is leader of the party. Are they part of some organization or not? Or have they just been plucked out of nowhere? And why are they the one being given the Sword of Legend? A sword whose power is tied to the stars. It becomes empowered when certain celestial bodies are in alignment. How powerful is the Sword of Legend under normal circumstances? I reckon it's still a fairly fancy sword. I'm not going to give it like Excalibur style powers or anything like that. I don't think this is, you know, a sword that sets itself on fire or does anything else fancy. It's just deals lethal damage against undead that wouldn't die otherwise. That's the main purpose of a sword. Under normal circumstances, the sword is simply a sharp weapon that is extremely difficult to damage. There we go. To wield the sword at its full power, one must something that makes the chosen the chosen. We'll get back to it. Currently wielded by the chosen one after they were issued. Or actually, do I give the chosen one the sword from the get-go? Do I get given it by the order and told go defeat the bad guy? Or do they get given the quest and the first step of the quest is acquire the sword, which usually means passing some kind of trial that brings our characters together initially. In fact, now that I say it out loud, that's far too good of an opportunity to miss, isn't it? The initial challenge that makes the characters start working together as a team. So currently held by the knights, the order of the name work in progress. And here's how we introduce one of the heroes' party, the Flame Knights. Currently held by the Order of the Eternal Flame, name pending. They will give it to the chosen one only if they are able to pass their trial. The Flame Knight member to be of the party. Currently a young knight in the... I have to get used to not putting V and then going for the link because I've put V into all of the titles. Currently a young knight in the Order of the Eternal Flame. And let's click on that and stick it into organizations. Member to be of the party, currently a young knight in the Order of the Eternal Flame. They will join the heroes. They will join the party. Do I put a link in every time I mention? and will that affect the program in any way? I'm going to say no. They will join the party after the chosen one passes the trials. Well, passes or attempts. They might not necessarily succeed, they might get given the sword anyway. We'll join the party after the chosen one attempts the trials. I don't think I need a link between the individual members of the party. Crank up the repel force a little. I want as much as possible for these to try and not overlap. Okay. Who are you again? You're the head of the Watchers of the Night Sky, right? Yeah, Watchers of the Night Sky. Does all of this necessarily need to link to the party, actually, now that I think about it? Yes, I think the party is kind of the central pillar to this entire story/world-building exercise. They're the driving force of the whole thing, so they need to be in the middle, and things that link to the party as a whole need to be in the middle. Where have they gone? The Order of the Eternal Flame doesn't need to link to the party. They're to do with the Flame Knight, and yes, the party goes and attempts the trial, but it's not even the full party yet when they go to attempt the trials, so it doesn't really matter. There's not really a connection directly between these two. It's circumstantial. Okay, leader, head of the Watchers of the Night Sky. Why does he care about the undead? Why is he giving out quests? I guess the undead, if it's the kind that devours life force and causes all manner of problems by its sheer existence, people are pretty motivated to get rid of it by default, so I don't need to put a reason in here for why he wants the undead properly dead. He tracked down the chosen one. He tracked down the chosen one and issued them the quest. I just gotta put a line in here so that when I click on something, that's not just emptiness, and I know what I'm looking at. So the Watchers of the Night Sky, the Order headed by leader. They observe the heavens and report on major celestial events to those who might need to know. Yeah, so maybe that's the Order's actual purpose. They're not necessarily scholars of the celestial bodies out of a pure scholarly interest in the sky. They very specifically look for funky stuff happening up there. They observe the heavens and report major celestial events to those who might need to know. Their main concern is preventing or removing threats to the world, or is removing, let's just say, major threats. major threats. Threats to the world or threats to the region that they operate in. Yes. Okay. The evil undead. An ancient, because of course it is, an ancient undead of great power. He is nearly impossible to kill. He has tried in the past to destroy the what did I call the thing? Oh, I just called it Sword of Legend. Oops. Okay, I gotta be consistent here in how I name these things. It's gotta be the Sword of Legend, so that it fits in with how I'm doing everything else. The Sword of Legend. There we go. It's tried in the past to destroy the Sword of Legend. It was in response to him that the Order of the Eternal Flame was founded. They seek to combat its influence. You see to combat his influence and see him vanquished. I could go for it. Not just like pronouns for this undead, but I mean like I could go for an it, a force of darkness that isn't a person, it's just a creature. Or a natural occurrence, a natural disaster. An earthquake that can be killed. That kind of deal. Let me just take a sip. And maybe... How would that affect a final battle? There's not going to be a villain monologue. There's also not going to be a clashing of ideals between the heroes and the villain. But there is... I mean, there's potential for escalation and killing a character in either case, but it kind of feels different if they die to this overwhelming evil power and die to the bad guy. Do I want the audience to hate the villain? Or do I want them to fear the darkness? You know, that kind of thing. He or it? Evil undead or dark miasma? I'll come back to it. Anything else missing? Anything at all? Yes, the Order of the Eternal Flame. An Order of Knights founded to counter the growing influence of evil undead. I should change it as well. The evil undead, the leader of the Watchers. Everything gets V in front of it. I'm gonna mess it up when I put in the links quite often, but I think it's for the best just in terms of helping me think about it. And the whole point of trying out Obsidian Notes is that I want to see if it's good for organizing stuff. But the Order of the Eternal Flame, Order of Knights founded to counter the growing influence of the evil undead. They wield fire against its shades and abominations. It's kind of a standard thing, you know, the undead. There's a fair bit of overlap actually between undead and corrupted life kind of themes, where even though they're living things, kind of swamps and brambles and stuff like that get associated with the undead. You see it in Magic the Gathering, you see it in one of my favorite series on Royal Road to Nebrum, which is all about the rising of a lich. You see it in some lit RPGs I've read, where like the god of undeath is known as the Dark Bramble, stuff like that. Those kind of thorny, boggy, dangerous, swampy places and plants are all often associated with undeath. So shades and twisted abominations and swamp monsters are very on theme for an undead. But I think maybe this is one place where I want to go off theme a bit. An order founded on light and fire going against the undead is already super cliche, but I like it. But maybe we do something a little more interesting with the undead. So what do I want to do here? Maybe they lean specifically into fire, not into light. So the evil undead don't go skulking around in the dark in the night. It's out and about in the day. Doesn't care about sunlight. Maybe even not even like rotting undead. Very clean, prim and proper preserved undead. Not quite vampire style, but maybe something Warhammer Tomb Kings-esque? Not even mummified, like fully preserved. An organize founded to counter the growing influence of the evil undead. Temperature thing, make them like ice affiliated. Yeah, I think what's it called? World of Warcraft has kind of cornered the market on ice undead, and then Game of Thrones came in and did it again. Preserved in ice undead, it is good. But I think I specifically want to go away from that affiliation with something else. You know, there's dead affiliated with rot and the bog, and there's undead affiliated with ice and being preserved in ice, and there's that kind of stuff. Undead be affiliated with the darkness and that kind of imagery of death. I kind of want the thing that makes these undead unique is that they're not tied to any of these things. They are simply undead. Nothing else going on. And in the fact that they have nothing else going on, they've got something going on, which is that it's quite interesting that they're not leaning into another theme. There's of course also some more uncommon themes and affiliations I could go with that are also fairly interesting. You know, there's leaning to machine kind of stuff, the soulless machine, the soulless undead monster, that kind of thing. I do very much like that aesthetic that I've seen a lot, where it's like metal machines, but they're almost pulled into the form of flesh and bone. But I kind of want to keep that for another world building project I'm working on, so yeah, specifically undead that are just, these guys are dead, but it hasn't really done much else to them. I'll think about it. Focus on the Order of the Eternal Flame for now. It's definitely not going to be the Eternal Flame, absolutely not. I was just reading a cultivation novel the other day, where one of the sects is all about the Eternal Flame, and that's just, I'm not gonna straight up riff on that. Under to counter the greatness of the evil undead, they wield fire again. They wield Why do they build fire beyond the fact that it's super cool? Cleansing fire is the standard trope. There's also the fire of rebirth. The obvious deconstruction of they build fire because it's destructive. And it's not actually anything about the undead specifically, it's just their whole deal is blow it up. Your hands get the Flammenwerfer. They wield fire for reasons. They maintain 3 primary fortresses and a number of smaller fortifications along the edge of the undead's territory. Undead's territory. Now that should be correct. Undeaths. No, I think this program just hasn't got undead in its standard vocabulary. At the edge of the undead's territory. Their headquarters are in the northernmost, it doesn't really matter, northernmost port. North Castle, there we go. Take me to that node and put it in locations. There we go, now we've got our first location. The headquarters are in the northernmost fort of North Castle, name pending. North Castle, the first fortification built by the second and oldest fortification built by Order of the Eternal Flame. The first no longer exists. Serves as the headquarters of the Order and the location of their... Actually no, let's not have it be the location of their trials. Serves as the headquarters of the Order. The trials will be in a different one that's further back and more defended. This is the main hub, they've got most of their guys there, it's the one that's right on the front lines with the undead, and then there's a separate temple, not even one of the forts, it's a temple further away from the undead lands where they keep the Sword of Legend. Among their many fortifications, many outposts, is a temple. Is the temple where the Sword of Legends is kept. The temple. The location of... What is single brackets for? Single bracket also does funky stuff, but it doesn't seem to be links. The location of a Sword of Legend. This is where the oldest members of the Order of the Eternal Flame go to retire and train the new initiates. It is also where the trials, both to enter the order and to obtain the sword, are held. Yo, it's all coming together. I enjoy this kind of style of world building, this kind of make stuff up as you're going along. Because I feel like if I sat down and went, okay, here is a character, I now need to figure out this character's backstory. Like, you see every now and then these character sheets or whatever that people make, or these super ridiculous questionnaires where it's like, here's 300 questions to answer about your character. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to answer 300 questions. 290 of these questions aren't going to tell me anything relevant to the world building or the storytelling, you know? Doesn't matter if you're doing this just because you want to create a world or because you actually want to write in that world. Most of that stuff is not going to matter. So just trying to make a character completely in isolation is very difficult. And I find it's much easier to build in sections. Now, different people will have different sections that they feel are the most important and that they are the most comfortable in focusing their writing on. For me personally, it's exactly the things I have put into categories here. People, places, and organizations. That's what I like to center my world building around. You know, who's doing what, how are they structuring themselves, and where are they doing it? And I think the reason that works so well for me is because I tend to think a lot in kind of political terms, in terms of, you know, influence and trade and military might. For me, it's all about that kind of stuff, about nations and people and organizations trying to vie against each other. So when I'm world building, it helps me a lot to split things into these things and then use those as a jumping off point. And everything else kind of stems from that, like the magic system, the items that people own, the relations between them, those all come from where and who they are. But that will be different for different people. I know some people, not so much for the world building, but for the writing, will come up with a plot first and then build a world that that plot fits into, which I can see how that would work as well. And some people just love different stuff. You know, if you're... the context matters as well. If you're doing a D&D campaign, there is of course always Matthew Mercer's advice, which is, you know, start with one location in one village in one region of one country and just build out gradually from there, which is very good for, first of all, the level of detail he likes to go into, and also for the purpose of world building that he has, where it's for a D&D campaign and your players might roll up somewhere, ask a few questions that you need answers to, and then decide, hey, never mind the hints you were dropping, we're going to go this direction. And then you need to know what's that direction. Which is similar to the advice that I gave in one of my shorts about building a world where you start in a center with a very safe spot and then you spiral out and the world becomes rougher in terrain and more dangerous the further out you go. Of course, for me, when I said that, the focus was on the idea of terrain in a fantasy world, but it still works from a storytelling perspective. You know, it's kind of video game-esque logic of your players are this level here, so this is the kind of challenge they need, and as they move outwards, they need more difficult stuff, so it gets more high level. Speaking of fantasy terrain, if I've got 3 major castles along a border with the undead, what forms that border? Classic option would be a mountain range, and the forts are along the passes between the mountains. Then of course there could be water. It's a fairly common thing for undead not to be able to cross various bodies of water, whether it's because they can't swim or because the water actively repels them, you know, with flowing water. The flowing water one can be quite interesting. I remember from the Old Kingdom series that I mentioned earlier, there was an instance in the books where a few villagers were gathered on an island that was in the middle of a river, and a bunch of undead wanted to get to them, and what they did is they brought along these boxes filled with grave dirt and built a bridge out of them that allowed them to cross the water, which I thought was a fantastic moment in the book, and looking back on it is just really great, one of my favorite things in that series. But yeah, what are my undead being repelled by, if I'm not making them super classic undead? Or maybe I do. Maybe I go the opposite direction of trying to stay away from those tropes, and instead of picking one, I pick all of them. There's whole different types of undead, and this ancient evil has got a bunch of different ones under their control. The Order of Eternal Flame, they wield fire against the undead abominations, the powers of the dark, and the corruption that seeks to move against them. We can lean into all of the aspects of fire. Fire as its destructive element, this purifying and rebirthing element that goes against all of these different things. Maintain 3 primary fortresses and a number of smaller fortifications along the edge of the undead's territory. Headquarters are in the northernmost North Castle. This castle is the front line in the... How long has this been going on? 200 years, maybe? I don't want to get into ridiculous numbers. It's not going to be like 1,000 years of conflict against this one undead. But I want to have a couple generations have been committed to this. So maybe not 200, but somewhere between 1 and 200. This castle is the front line in the... Or rather, since this is the second one, the other one fell. This castle is a front line in the over a century-old battle, over a century-old war, and has been in use. I need to restructure this entire paragraph. They maintain 3 primary fortresses and a number of smaller fortifications along the edge of the territory. Keep that. North Castle serves as their primary defense. It has been their headquarters for almost 100 years since the fall of Old Castle, whose ruins stand within the undead's territory. There we go. That's a better way of phrasing all this. And I wrote Old Cast instead of Old Castle. Old Castle. The former headquarters of the Order. I kind of wasn't sure if I wanted to link it back to this again, because I can notice this node starting to grow bigger, I think, with each other thing that points towards it. And the order isn't actually that important in the grand scheme of things. The former headquarters of the Order of the Eternal Flame. It was destroyed almost a century ago and now houses one of the underlings of the undead. There's no real good way to have these not overlap unless I make them repel less. I stick you in the middle here if I do that. Kind of. But I don't like it. Turn down link force a little. There's a Legend of Zelda joke to be made there, Link and Force. You want to go in here now? Not really. Links should stick tightly together but be a little bit longer. What is center force? How tightly it all gets pulled into the middle of the screen, I guess. I should play around with that a bit. I should also take a moment and actually think about what I think of Obsidian so far. Let me just take a sip. Generally speaking, when organizing stuff and thinking about stuff and making notes and such thing, I like to have everything laid out and visible in front of me. Now in a single Google document, you can't really do that. You can only see one page and you got to scroll to find all the bits and pieces. But at least it's all there in one place and you can search for whatever. This, so far, I'm quite liking. I do, because I've got the overview on this side here with each individual page. This up again. Graph view, there we go. Let's click on this side. I do like this overview with each individual page. So I've got all my stuff sorted. I can put it into folders, which is nice. So I quite like that part, and I like the links as well, where I can just click on different things and go to the pages immediately if I want to know something or if I want to add an extra note. So linking stuff together is very, very useful. As for the graph view, I don't know yet. It's nice, I like how it looks, it's very pretty. I do just kind of like data representations like that. But that's more just a me thing than it is actually a useful thing. I think for a much bigger graph, the color sorting into the categories and some nodes getting bigger when they get referenced a lot could probably be fairly useful, but I can't accurately say anything in that regard until I give this some time and actually see firsthand how it all plays out. But this side of things, this part so far I do like, and I think I will continue to use Obsidian Notes. I do know that apparently there's a whole load of plugins that are community made. I'll need to look into whether I want to use some of those and what they all do. For now, let's head back to, again, wrong side. Okay, this will be the one thing I dislike. I totally get why it's like this, that you can open different things like that. If I pin this, does it maybe stop? There we go. Alright, forget anything I was about to complain about. What I intuitively thought would be the solution was the solution. Love that in a program. Love it when you go, hey, can I do this thing? That would make a lot of sense, and then it does the thing that you wanted. No better feeling. Going back to the order. Has been a headquarters for almost 100 years since the fall of Old Castle, whose ruins now stand within the Undead's territory. Among the many upper is the temple where the Sword of Legends is kept. This is currently the home of the Flame Knight. While having completed their training and being a full-fledged knight, they are not currently stationed at and the reasons for that I guess I'll put into the Flame Knight's actual page, it doesn't need to be on the Order of the Eternal Flame page. In fact, this sentence here doesn't need to. Yeah. Among their many outposts is the temple where the Sword of Legend is kept. This is currently the home of a Flame Knight. Okay, what next? Watchers of the night sky, they don't really need more fleshing out. Their whole role is just to spot thing in the sky, tell person. Is the leader of the Watchers. Head of the Watchers of the night sky. He tracked down the chosen one and issued west. How does he locate the chosen one? Why does he? Let's not say track down. He summoned the chosen one and issued them the quest. He knows of them due to an old friend of his that is close to the chosen one. He knows of him due to an old friend of his, the mentor, that is close to the chosen one. There we go. Lovely trope to include. We have the mentor. The one who teaches and guides the chosen one. Why have you gone off to the side here? Why is it sometimes when I drag a node, the entire tree follows? Ah, it's because I miss and I drag the background. That explains a lot. Yes, the mentor. An old... I don't know if I want to make them an old man or an old woman. An old friend of both. The chosen one and the leader of the Watchers. They live in the... I just turn capsule on. The capital. They live in the capital where they work as apothecary. There we go. Capital in locations. Yes, the mentor. Okay. I'm starting to very much see the value of this as the world building kind of grows bigger and bigger and more intricate. Because oftentimes in my usual kind of notes, a lot of this kind of stuff would get... some of these characters and some of these individual pages I'm making that I want to flesh out a whole bunch more would end up just being a note in another character's, like in the background of another character. They wouldn't even get their own section, they'd just be an afterthought in someone else's section. Whereas like this, I've got all the space in the world to expand on each of these people without it completely clogging up a document and giving me, you know, a 50-page long thing where I cannot find any information ever again. Because that happens. More than I'd like it to, frankly. I'm gonna take another drink, my throat is quite strong. Okay. I do still want to maybe not overdo it, because it would be all too easy to start filling in every last little detail of everywhere and lose sight of the forest for the trees. There is a party at the center of this. Check here if there's anything. I want to, I don't know, highlight that this is the most important note. The party. Our main character is on a quest to vanquish evil. This was given by the leader of the Watchers of the Night, leader of the Watchers of the Night. They've seen the stars that an alignment is imminent. When it occurs, a sort of legend will be at full power and capable of vanquishing the evil and dead. The party must... The chosen one must first gather the party, then must first gather the party, along the way obtain the Sword of Legend, and then venture into the evil undead's land and vanquish him. Yeah, I'll stick with him for now. Why did I just get a pop-up that I've entered my own chat room? I think the stream's connection might be a little iffy. Unstable, it says. Fortunately, there's no real idea on what I can do about that. As long as the stream is still up, it's fine. Yeah, the chosen one must first gather the party, along the way obtain the Sword of Legend, and then venture into the evil undead's lands and vanquish him. Along the way, they will likely have to face several... I really don't have it with the spelling today. On the way, they will likely have to face several of the evil undead underling servants. Let's say servants. Underlings just kind of makes them sound like random mooks, but we're talking about, you know, the generals of the army. No villains, lieutenants. Along the way, they will likely have to face several of the evil undead servants and best them too. The undead's lair is thought to be at the center of its main in the evil castle. Names are so difficult. When I'm doing world building off stream, I've got like 7 tabs of fantasy name generator open because you need it. Otherwise, you're just doomed. I don't know how it is for anyone else, but for me, coming up with names is by far one of the most difficult aspects of world building. Such a hassle. Yeah, the center of everything in the evil castle. Yes. Okay, I still only have 3 party members, and I've not really come up with inspiration for a 4th one. The chosen one has to be there by default, and their kind of whole deal is that there's some funky thing they've got that makes them... Excuse me. There is some funky thing they've got that makes them specifically suited to taking on the undead. Not even the undead in general, but specifically taking on the evil undead that needs to be there. The Gravekeeper, who comes from a whole order and organization, is a natural fit for dealing with the lands of the undead, and they're here to kind of... Story-wise, they're here to moderate and keep the party kind of in check and be a bit of a moral guide, so to say. They'll take a gentler approach to things. The Flame Knight, obviously the aggressive one. Damn it, I've entirely fallen into what I was talking about at the start of the stream, where I was talking about like the TV tropes page on Cast Calculus and what they recommend for groups of 4, where it's like the 4 temperament ensemble. I've got the chosen one, the kind of what did they break him down to? They broke it into like the 4 humors or something like that. And I've got like the calm one, the aggressive one, the calm and reserve, the calm and outgoing, the aggressive and outgoing, and then I just need the aggressive and reserved, and that will be the four tropey ones. I guess tropes are tropes because they're good and they work, right? That's what I always say. Okay, if I surrender to the trope here, and I need the aggressive and not outgoing one. The Flame Knight is the aggressive and speaks their mind, and who's the aggressive and doesn't speak their mind? I suppose someone sympathetic to the undead, perhaps? Someone who, like a counterpart to the Flame Knight's bright, fiery destruction? Someone who's got dark destruction? Let's not box myself in, even if this kind of fits to the trope. When it comes to personality and emotional kind of stuff, there is also, it's worth putting a little thought into the fact that often these descriptions are so wide that anything can be sorted into them. It's kind of like star signs. You know, if you ever go and get the newspaper or some nonsense with a horoscope, whatever's written in there is rubbish, but it's rubbish that's so broad that almost anyone can read it and go, oh yeah, that sounds just like me. So if I treat the 4 temperament ensemble with the same kind of idea, but it's a very broad grouping and not necessarily one that actually applies to me, how was I originally thinking about these? The chosen one is the one with the special power. They're going on this quest, so they at least agree it needs to be done, and they're willing to get into a fight and get into danger to do it. The Gravekeeper, calm and reserved, maybe not reserved, and calm, maybe more focused. Yeah, kind of a very focused character. They know exactly what they want. This is someone who's super sure of themselves. They always have an answer, a way forward. They always know what they think the right or best next step is. The Flame Knight, I don't want to make them unsure, because I think the hyper-aggressive fire wielder that's got confidence problems is a trope that's genuinely overdone, and I think a trope that is often done poorly. I see it in anime so often, especially in school settings. It's not one that I enjoy. So the Flame Knight, maybe I don't really even need to, because, you know, flaws are often more interesting than abilities when it comes to storytelling and characters. But flaws can take a lot of shapes, and I don't think necessarily I need to make like a lack of confidence or something emotional any one of these people's flaws. They can all be pretty competent, well put together people, and just be put into situations that are of a level of danger that is beyond them. Maybe I take a more tabletop RPG approach to it. What party roles do they fill, you know, video game wise? In which case, the Flame Knight is very much DPS. The Gravekeeper, what kind of abilities do I envision them having? Obviously the stuff with the undead, but what do they do in a fight? They're not going around hitting people with their shovel that they use to bury the dead. What are they doing in a fight? Troll Mage is an option. The Chosen One, we could make the main character the healer. That's not so commonly done. Normally the main guy with a sword is supposed to be out there slashing because they've got a funky sword, but if a sword is only special because it specifically kills powerful undead creatures like the one we're going after, then outside of that final climactic fight, the Chosen One is kind of just a guy or girl. There's just some dude trained by their mentor, who I said was an apothecary, right? Apothecary, yeah. The chosen one is all naturey, healing and nurturing. The healer of the party, control mage, DPS. So I guess we need a tank. We need someone defensive. Difficult. I've got nothing yet. I think I'll have to come back to it later. So what do I do next instead? Chosen one, leader of the party. They were taught much about nature and healing by the mentor. With this knowledge, they became a traveling. They also make them an apothecary? No. They took this knowledge of the wilds and used it to go traveling and enjoy the many sights of the world. When contacted by their mentor, they agree to go meet the Watchers. They agree to go meet the Watchers and then agree to take up the quest to slay the undead. They agree to meet the Watchers and then agree to take up the quest to slay the undead. Their primary motivation in this is, that's the crux of the issue. Why are they doing it? It's easy enough in a classic fantasy quest to tell the farm boy, you are the one in the prophecy, look, here's your funky power that you've just used. If you don't go, the world ends. But I'm not going for a world-ending threat. This is a thing that's been more or less contained, and maybe that is a problem. I could come up with a motivation for why this person is the go vanquish stuff kind of type, but maybe I don't want to. Maybe the reason that they go is because actually the containment is slipping, the undead is breaking free, and this is the last chance to stop them before it all goes to pot. They agree to take... Actually, having seen the damage done by attacks from the undead and knowing firsthand the attacks have been getting worse, they accept quest and set out to save the land. there we go. So for me thinking like 20 minutes ago, hey, the Watcher probably needs to have a reason why they've gone and picked out the Chosen One specifically, and if the Chosen One is not famous, how do they even know about them? Well, they happen to be friends with the Chosen One's mentor. I randomly said that the mentor happens to be an apothecary, and then decided that the Chosen One would learn nature stuff from them, and then from that, here we have finally the character motivation for why the Chosen One is doing the stuff that they're doing. This is maybe not my favorite, but it's up there in like my top 3 favorite things about writing and world building as a hobby. Seeing all these disparate little details come together to form a clear, cohesive picture is exactly the kind of stuff that I enjoy about writing. Yeah, we now have a Chosen One and we've got their motivation. Why are they the Chosen One? I skipped over this earlier. What makes them able to wield the Sword of Legend? This is one of those things that I actually don't have to explain. Ancient magical artifacts can just do stuff, you know? Your only explanation for why it does that can just be, well, it's an ancient artifact, it just does that. That's how they work, you know? Unlike the Monty Python skit where, what's the exact wording? Sodden Vince handing out swords is no basis for a system of government. Swords picking random people is in fact a basis for a system of quest giving. But is it satisfying? Does it fit into the feeling of the world I'm trying to build? I think the answer is yes. I think with the places where I'm leaning into certain tropes, this is enough of a kind of classic fantasy world that it doesn't beg the question, how does this sword work? Why does it do what it does? Why has it picked this person? The important thing is the sword has picked this person. But if I do that, then that kind of messes up the earlier thing of why and how has the Watcher managed to locate the Chosen One. If the Watcher asks his friend, the mentor, to go fetch the Chosen One, it's because they know beforehand that the Chosen One is suitable to wield the sword. So now I have to decide, is there a prophecy that picked them, and that's how they know, or is there some other special quality? Damn. Here is the downside to the thing that I love so much about world building. You can force yourself into a corner and have to change things so very, very easily. What has to give here? Does the sword have to give way, or does the finding of the Chosen One have to give way? Which one is more important? Which one is nicer for the story? I think, given how much I like the link of like the Chosen One is an apothecary, or is the apprentice of an apothecary, and they've traveled the wilds and that's why they take up a quest, I like that part too much. I kinda have to keep it. Means the sword has to be the thing that gives way. So it can't be mysterious and unknown. There has to be a very specific, hey, this is what the sword looks for. And then the Watcher goes and asks people he trusts if they can look for someone, and the mentor goes, yeah, I've got exactly the person you need. And that's how the Chosen One gets chosen. Okay, so what is the trait? Let's go over to the Sword of Legend page. Wield the sword at its full power, one must what? The sword has something to do with the stars. We've established this because it's a celestial alignment that is causing the trigger for the entire quest in the first place. But celestial alignment is a very loose term, you know, it can be that the stars of, you know, the comets are aligning to form the constellation of the soccer ball, and the greatest footballer in the land must be called forth to wield the Sword of Legend. So really, I can pick anything. Unfortunately, you know, what's this? How's the saying go? Restrictions, constraints, something like that. Free creativity. The fact that I can pick anything kind of makes it difficult for anything to come to the forefront. You know, nothing stands out and goes like, hey, this is an ideal point to pick to base this on. We've made them enjoy the wilds, and they know about nature and healing. So, the sword that kills the undead, something about life magic. To wield the sword, you have to have some kind of attunement to anti-undead magic. But that's honestly, that's just boring. It's not even tropey, it's just straight up boring. To wield the sword at its full power, one must have nature magic? Question mark? Have sympathy for the undead, and it's kind of like Demon Slayer, where our main character Tanjiro always feels very sorry for the people as he beheads them. One must be born under the right constellation. I never liked birthright kind of stuff. I mean, that's not true. I love, you know, as much as I'm anti-monarchy for the most part, you watch Lord of the Rings and it's just like, man, that's a really cool chosen king. I really hope he takes his rightful throne and leads the people into glorious victory. But just, you're born on this particular day so you get the cool powers? That sucks. That's so unfair. We don't like people born into privilege here. Or rather, we like people, we don't like privilege. Yeah, let me remove that from the list. That's not getting into consideration. So have nature magic, have sympathy for the undead. I don't like either of those. They're just so basic. But what could I do instead? Or maybe it's the trials. Maybe you have to pass the trials to actually... It's not only that you have to pass the trials for the Order of the Eternal Flame to let you take the sword, you have to pass the trials to wield it in the first place? To wield the sword at its full power, one must pass its test. The chosen one was chosen because their skill set and personality led the mentor and leader of the Watchers to believe they would be capable. This is a dangerous decision to make, because if I put this in and I then decide to write this story, I have to come up with a trial for the sword and make it something specifically tailored for this character to pass. And that is so much more annoying than it sounds. And it already sounds annoying. Do I force this task upon myself, knowing full well that it could absolutely suck? Ooh. The alternative is I keep agonizing over why the chosen one is chosen and what makes him suitable to wield the sword. Or I don't have to worry about it at all. On. The sword is attuned to undeath, while normal undead can be overwhelmed with opposing powers like fire or life. Sufficiently powerful ones must be defeated by a greater power in their own element. As such, the sword can only be wielded. As such, the sword is full of dark, corruptive, deadly energies. To wield it, hang on, I've said this twice. The sword is attuned to undeath. While normal undead can be overwhelmed with opposing powers like fire or life, sufficiently powerful ones must be defeated by a greater power in their own element. As such, the sword carries overwhelmingly deadly powers and can only be wielded by those capable of withstanding. There we go. And we go back to the Chosen One page. As someone with a strong affinity to life, the Chosen One should be both strong against yet weak to death and undeath. But due to the unique style of their magic and their relationship with their power, they are able to withstand it. This makes them one of the few people capable of wielding the Sword of Legend. There we go. We now have an explanation for why the Chosen One is the Chosen One that doesn't clash with any of the other lore that we've established. In fact, it reinforces it, as it now puts just that much more emphasis on the chosen one's own power and the relationship with the mentor and what they've been taught. I think is excellent. Looking at our graph over on the side. You know what, I do see one aspect in which this having a visualization could be very useful. The fact that you're able to see not just which nodes have a lot of connections and get bigger because of it, but rather which nodes have very few connections. You can look at this at a glance and go, hey, this bit is only connected to one thing, but it's actually quite important. Shouldn't it be mentioned in a few more places? Shouldn't this have ties to a few more things? And that, I think, is going to be very valuable as far as world building is concerned. Overall, I have to say I quite like Obsidian Notes. I'm almost certainly going to be using more of this in the future. When that will be, can't say for sure. Rest of this week probably going to be more EU4. I have, I think, managed to get the save file on the GNOME game working again. For now, I do believe I'm going to look to call it here. Let me take a quick look, see if they've got anyone I know who's streaming. And yes, it looks like our Mantis is live. In fact, stream starting soon. He's just started. He's doing calligraphy today, which is lovely. Okay, slash trained around. Do you have I spelled that correctly? Almantas VT. I have. Okay. I hope you've all enjoyed the stream. I probably won't be streaming tomorrow, but the day afterwards I do intend to. As I said, probably back to EU4, but I'll definitely be coming back to this world building project at some point because I do love stuff like this and I want to do more of it in the future. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. We'll see you next time.